In the opening scene, the camera shows a room filled with Red Sox memorabilia. The narrator, Al Waterman, introduces the story about his friend named Ben, who was a schoolteacher in 1980. When Ben was 7 years old, his parents got divorced, and he stayed in Boston with his mom. Uncle Carl, who isn't particularly child-friendly, picks up Ben and takes him to a baseball stadium. Carl knows something Ben might like, and he introduces him to the game of baseball. However, Carl also teaches Ben other things that are not very kid-friendly. As the years pass, Ben becomes a fan of the Red Sox. Carl buys him a book of photos of the team, but warns him that it might break his heart. Fast forward to October 2003. Ben is now a 30-year-old teacher. He drives a cramped turtle car as he takes the kids on a tour. The kids boss him around during the trip. Meanwhile, Lindsay, a busy corporate employee and girl boss, forgets about a call from Ben Reitman. She asks her assistant to pretend to be her, to deal with it. Ben and the kids visit Lindsay's corporate office, pretending she is expecting them. Lindsay offers them drinks, and when the fat kid orders a martini, Ben playfully hits him on the head. He jokes that Lindsay can take a swipe at them too. Ben teaches geometry and takes promising kids on tours to meet influential and successful people in the field of math, hoping to provide them with practical education opportunities. Currently, Lindsay is working on a project for a jet company that wants to figure out how to rent out jets in order to buy more jets. She shows the kids how they do it and emphasizes the habit of looking at numbers, adding them up, and rearranging them in interesting patterns. The fat kid mentions that it's his hobby and admires Lindsay for her intelligence. Lindsay praises the corporation, describing it as a place full of numbers and heavenly in its own way. The kids genuinely like Lindsay very much. One of the kids even suggests that Lindsay seems interested in Ben, but the others don't believe Ben could date her. Despite her busy corporate life, Lindsay contemplates becoming a professor, as she believes it would be more relaxing. Later, Lindsay's assistant informs her that Jack is leaving for the summer, and they discuss whether they should hire someone new or promote from within. Lindsay is eagerly hanging on to the possibility of the promotion, which she acknowledges could get intense and even competitive. Soon after, Lindsay sees Ben sitting nearby and nervously engages in a conversation with him. Ben appreciates Lindsay for the tour she conducted earlier. Awkwardly, Lindsay asks if the conversation is over, to which Ben playfully asks her if it's a date. Lindsay doesn't provide a definite answer, but gives a disgusted expression and quickly changes the topic to Ben playing rugby football. In another scene, Lindsay attends a spin class with her friends, and they inquire why she rejected the school teacher. As they sweat more during the workout, Lindsay's friends suggest that she should date someone different from her usual type, as most men she dates are highly successful and competitive, like Wall Street guys, making it seem like she's dating herself. However, another friend contradicts this advice, mentioning that school teachers have lower income. Later, in the school hallways, Ben continues playing the game and impersonates a teacher. Before he gets caught, he takes a clueless kid with a neck brace and brings him to the office, even though the kid didn't do anything wrong. Ben's colleague invites him to play basketball, suggesting there are other sports aside from baseball. Another colleague asks Ben for help with the kids, as he is more approachable to them, and the kids listen to him. During this time, Ben receives a message from Lindsay, which leaves him over the moon. Later, during rock climbing, Lindsay reflects on her preference for dating someone less successful, believing that not everything needs to be a trophy. At least a teacher is better than a beggar, she justifies. As she tries to explain this perspective, she accidentally lets go of the rope, and her friend falls from the climbing wall. Later, Ben visits Lindsay's apartment with flowers in hand and hears her groaning in pain, asking to be murdered. He thinks it may not be the right time, but he presses the doorbell and reminds her that they were supposed to go on a date. When he sees her looking terrible, Lindsay says they should reschedule, because she's sick. Before closing the door, Ben asks what kind of pain she's experiencing. Lindsay ate at a new place, and it upset her stomach. Ben asks if she's faking it, claiming that they don't need to go on the date. But Lindsay's condition seems genuine, as she keeps vomiting and choking. Despite the circumstances, Ben decides to assist Lindsay and get her to bed, as she's very weak. He helps her find something to wear for sleeping, and while jokingly searching for the red underwear as Wonder Woman's suit, he helps her change into her nightgown. Ben puts the hamper beside her bed, and then leaves Lindsay to rest. Later on, Ben brings some drinks for Lindsay to help her regain strength. His care doesn't stop there, as he also cleans up her toilet. Lindsay wakes up again and sees Ben brushing the dog's teeth. After feeling better from her bath, Lindsay notices that Ben has fallen asleep on the couch with the dog. She asks him if he has cleaned up the mess, and in a humorous tone, Ben jokes that the vomit elves have come to take care of it. Despite the joke, it's clear that Ben has only done the bare minimum to clean up. He even brings some comfort movies for Lindsay to watch, and she mentions that her go-to comfort movie is Annie Hall. Ben reacts playfully, pretending that it is indeed Annie Hall, but he eventually reveals the real movie he has brought, which is Roadhouse. Lindsay laughs at his sense of humor. At a brunch outside, Lindsay is preoccupied with a phone call, passionately fighting for her assistant Carrie. Meanwhile, Ben takes the liberty of indulging in most of the food on the table. Lindsay expresses her concern that some men might be uncomfortable with her phone habits, but she reassures Ben that she feels more relaxed around him. To help her out, Ben takes care of her phone ringing by saying bizarre things to the callers, amusing Lindsay. Interestingly, Ben himself doesn't have any phones or a pager. He guesses that Lindsay talks to her friends and refers to him as Ben the schoolteacher. In a lighthearted moment, Ben affectionately calls Lindsay Puker, while playfully taking her chin. Their bond grows stronger, as Lindsay feels more at ease and has fun with Ben. Later, at a house party, Lindsay introduces Ben and nervously asks her friends to interrogate him. One of her friends, a guy with a beard, even goes so far as to offer Ben a glass for a urine sample. Despite the peculiar introduction, the friends compliment Ben, recognizing his positive vibe. Lindsay is pleased that her friends seem cool with him. Otherwise, she jokingly mentions that she'd have to find new friends. However, there is one friend, Robin, who doesn't seem to warm up to Ben. She is always uptight, and questions why he hasn't been dating anyone else. Outside, Ben engages in a conversation with another guy about the Red Sox, which leads to an unexpected proposition. Initially, Ben thinks it's a joke, but it turns out to be a serious offer. Robin continues her domineering attitude, advising Lindsay to investigate why Ben is still single. Ben and his friends engage in a lively discussion about the Red Sox, and it turns out that he has a deep connection to the team, thanks to his uncle, who always takes him to the games. Meanwhile, Robin talks to the girls about a certain girl who is dating a great guy with a hidden secret, a collection of hair and nails. She uses this as an example to imply that there might be a reason why Ben is still single. However, it becomes apparent that Ben's obsession is not with hair and nails, but with baseball collectibles. His room is filled with Red Sox memorabilia that could easily qualify as a museum. Despite this quirk, he remains a charming and funny guy. As Ben and Lindsay continue to spend time together, Ben's sense of humor and fun nature shine through. March approaches, and excitement grows, as opening day is only 3 weeks away. Ben receives a package that turns out to be season tickets to the games. His friends are equally thrilled, and he even hugs the delivery man out of sheer excitement. While having a barbecue in the park, Lindsay listens to the sounds of seagulls. Ben takes the opportunity to list down the things he likes about her, including her habit of drinking in the afternoon, and her unique way of speaking. However, amidst the casual conversation, Lindsay brings up the idea of Ben coming to Baltimore to meet her family. But Ben already has other plans. He is heading to Florida with his friends for the Red Sox spring training. Lindsay seems to misunderstand the situation, and her thoughts get mixed up. It is at this point that Ben decides to be honest with her. He admits that he is a true blue Red Sox fanatic, and Lindsay acknowledges that she is aware of his passion, due to the overwhelming presence of Red Sox items in his apartment. But Ben confesses that it goes deeper than that. He opens up about his childhood, how attending the games brought him comfort during his parents' divorce, and how his uncle Carl, who always took him to the games, passed away from cancer. As a result, Ben inherited the season tickets, and is incredibly passionate about attending the games. Ben acknowledges that his passion for the Red Sox has caused problems in past relationships, because some women couldn't understand it. However, Lindsay reassures him that she understands who those women were, and that she doesn't share their perspective. Lindsay falls for Ben even harder, seeing him as a true romantic. However, when Ben suddenly kneels down, she thinks he is going to propose, but to her surprise, he asks her to go to the opening day with him. He offers a velvet box with the ticket inside, and Lindsay happily says yes. Back at her parents' house, Lindsay mentions her father's new hairdo, which she jokingly compares to that of a vampire. She grabs a cookie and goes to talk to her father. The news about the Red Sox and their spring training is playing on the TV, and her father asks if she's interested in the team. Lindsay replies that the schoolteacher likes it. Her father expresses the hope that she's bringing him along, but she explains that he can't come, due to it being a tradition. On the television, Ben appears in a Red Sox uniform, passionately celebrating with other fans. He even gets interviewed and speaks about how significant the Red Sox are to him, claiming they are more important than love in life. When Ben reveals that he's a teacher, Lindsay's dad seems disappointed with him. Nonetheless, Ben continues to act fanatically in front of the TV. Back in New York on draft day, they argue about who will attend which games on specific dates. Ben ingeniously settles the argument with a dance battle, where they dance to secure the tickets they want. The boys engage in a tapping dance battle to determine the outcomes. During one of Lindsay's visits to Ben, she witnesses the dance battle and takes the opportunity to discuss something with him. Ben then surprises her by bringing out an authentic Red Sox jacket and putting it on her. Lindsay jokingly remarks that they look like morons, and Ben explains it's because they're in Florida. But Lindsay finally grasps the magnitude of how much the Red Sox means to Ben. Understanding how previous relationships have been hurt by this, she embraces him to comfort him. Lindsay makes up her mind to work hard for a promotion, realizing that it would be perfect because, throughout the summer, both of them would be busy pursuing their passions. Lindsay would focus on her work, and Ben would immerse himself in attending the Red Sox games. On the opening day of the 2004 World Series, Lindsay makes an appearance. She notices that Al Waterman, the sponge salesman, has aged and is now undergoing dialysis. Ben proudly introduces Lindsay to his summer family, emphasizing how deeply involved they all are in their loyalty to the Red Sox. Lindsay is impressed by Ben's people-person attitude and how connected he is with his baseball community. As the games start, Lindsay finds herself still caught up with work, and when she has to leave for an important meeting, Ben reacts badly to it. Feeling guilty, she decides to cancel the meeting. Ben takes the opportunity to educate Lindsay on how the games work, even though she doesn't fully understand the details. What matters most to her is that she sees him happy. During one of their conversations, Ben philosophically explains to Lindsay how important baseball is in his life, describing it as something bigger than life itself. As a result, Lindsay starts attending more games with Ben and takes it upon herself to educate herself about the sport. She even buys books to learn about the significant events, players, and moments in baseball history. Lindsay is intrigued when Ben mentions the curse of the Bambino, which he explains was a drought from 1918 to 2004 during which the Red Sox didn't win any World Series, and it was attributed to their rivalry with the Yankees. With time, Lindsay becomes more and more involved in Ben's passion for the Red Sox. She even goes out of her way to look for clothes for Ben to wear when going to dinner with her parents, hoping that her parents will like him. And going back to that scene, Lindsay's father reacts to seeing Ben on TV during one of the games. Ben promises to wear something formal for dinner with Lindsay's parents. When they arrive at the fancy restaurant, Lindsay's dad's hair has changed again, prompting a playful remark from his wife, saying that he looks like a skunk. Meanwhile, Ben is wearing a somewhat cartoonish suit. However, despite the quirky outfit, Lindsay's parents seem to find him funny and charming. During the dinner, Lindsay's parents engage in a somewhat boring discussion, particularly about golf carts, which her dad sells. Ben overhears a couple talking about the woman's husband being late because he's watching a Red Sox game. To avoid any spoilers, Ben playfully acts like a child, covering his ears and singing loudly. Since he can't cover his ears due to the lobsters they're eating, Lindsay has to cover his ears for him. The awkward situation makes the dinner a bit embarrassing for Lindsay. As Lindsay's work becomes more demanding, Ben continues to be supportive and attentive to her parents. He takes them out for brunch, accompanies them to a country club, washes golf balls for them, and even gets them a tea time at the club. Lindsay's mom praises Ben for being great to them. June comes quickly, and the excitement of the World Series intensifies. Lindsay continues attending the games with Ben, and their connection grows stronger. Despite her hectic work schedule, they find time to be together after the games, and their intimacy deepens. The next morning at work, Ben's boss praises Lindsay as the best in the company, and introduces a new client. However, Lindsay is visibly exhausted and not performing at her best. She's been struggling to balance her time between being with Ben at the games and pulling all-nighters to work on projects. Concerned friends, especially the skeptical Robin, point out that Lindsay is losing herself and changing to fit Ben's lifestyle. But Lindsay doesn't see it that way and brushes off their concerns. Molly, one of Lindsay's friends, stands up for her and suggests that Robin is secretly hoping Lindsay's relationship will fail. Molly argues that Lindsay is successful in her career, and if she also has a successful relationship with Ben, she'll be a winner overall. This statement angers Robin, and she punches Molly in response. In July, during a match, Lindsay is working on her laptop and becomes a bit of a downer for their seatmates. She explains that she doesn't have much time anymore, as she recently got scolded by her boss and now has to juggle her time more efficiently. Meanwhile, Ben goes to buy hot dogs, and Lindsay gets knocked out by a line drive foul ball. Surprisingly, Ben's initial reaction is to go after the ball first, before checking on his knocked-out girlfriend. Lindsay's head gets scanned, but fortunately, nothing serious is found. The incident is even captured on TV. Later on, Lindsay has a serious talk with Ben and confesses that she can't go to the games anymore because she needs to concentrate on her job. She suggests that he should go with his friends instead. Ben is understanding and okay with the arrangement. As September arrives, Lindsay continues to excel at her job, and she receives compliments from a hot client for her brilliant work. Meanwhile, in the classroom, Ben enthusiastically hypes up his students during geometry classes, and they are being very loud, which irks the other teachers. Lindsay visits Ben to excitedly tell him that they are sending her to Paris, and she wants to take him along. However, the trip is scheduled for the same weekend as important Red Sox games, making it impossible for them to go together. Lindsay is mad that Ben has turned down the opportunity to go to Paris with her. As she is about to leave, she drops a hint that she might be late on her period, leading her to think that going to Paris would be the right time to share the news of a possible pregnancy with him. Lindsay goes on her Paris trip, and at night, she calls Ben to inform him that she got her period and isn't pregnant after all. Ben feels a mix of emotions, not entirely okay with the news. He had even bought a Red Sox frog suit, excited at the prospect of becoming a dad. When Ben picks Lindsay up from her flight back, she seems distant and cold towards him. He asks her if she wanted to have a baby, to which Lindsay confirms that she did. However, she expresses her concern that in their relationship, she often feels like a second priority. She worries that when important matters arise in the future, Ben's attention will always be on the Red Sox. Ben, on the other hand, argues that he doesn't understand Lindsay's perspective, since he believes his passion for the Red Sox is something she likes about him. Lindsay had thought that his love for baseball would redirect to her as well. During their conversation, Ben even speaks about the matter with the kid, seemingly frustrated and conflicted about their relationship. He rants and grunts about how he thinks working 90 hours a week is worse than his fanaticism for baseball. The kid then asks Ben a thought-provoking question, wondering if the Red Sox ever loved him back, implying that perhaps his devotion to the team might be one-sided. Ben decides to miss the Yankees game to attend Robin's Gatsby-themed party with Lindsay. They dance the night away and enjoy themselves, finding joy in activities beyond watching baseball games. After making love, Ben expresses that it's the greatest night of his life. However, their moment is interrupted by a phone call from his friend, who ecstatically informs him that the Red Sox scored an 8-7 victory, ending the 86-year drought. This historic moment enraged Ben, as he missed witnessing it, envying his friends who experienced the monumental win. His friend shouts about it being the greatest game, and the only one Ben has ever missed. On TV, everyone on the streets is celebrating the historic win. Lindsay tries to downplay it, saying it's just a game, but Ben is incredibly angry and upset. He punches a wall out of frustration, feeling that Lindsay doesn't understand his passion. He asks if there's a single thing Lindsay has cared about for 23 years, but then thinks that it's a silly question. This deeply hurts Lindsay, and she feels heartbroken by Ben's words. In late September, Ben attends a game alone, and justifies that the Red Sox never let their fans down, because they continue to play even if they don't win for almost a century. He tries to convince himself that he can get over Lindsay, and that their separation won't matter. However, the reality is quite the opposite. He isolates himself in his apartment, watching recordings and looking like a wreck. His friends come to his aid, help clean him up, and give him the strength to take care of himself again. In October, the playoffs begin, and the Yankees and Red Sox face off against each other. The Yankees keep winning, and in a bar, Ben and his friends see 3 Red Sox players who seem relaxed and enjoying themselves, despite their recent loss. Ben realizes he has been foolish. As for the players, it's just a job, not an all-consuming obsession. He decides to attempt to reconcile with Lindsay, but when he goes to her place, he encounters Lindsay's hot client, Patrick, who threatens Ben's confidence. Even Ernie, the dog, doesn't seem to like Ben anymore. Lindsay comes out and explains they are just having a work dinner. Ben expresses his love for her and asks for a second chance, but Lindsay declines, explaining that Ben is 2 different people, the winter guy who is not obsessed with the Red Sox, and the summer guy who is a crazed fan. She feels hurt and unable to deal with the situation anymore, and this cues Ben to leave. Molly announces that she is pregnant, bringing joy to their group of friends. Meanwhile, Carrie runs to Lindsay to tell her that she got the promotion and that there's champagne waiting for her. Lindsay is ecstatic about the news. Later, Lindsay overhears Robin's husband buying Ben's season tickets, specifically all the Red Sox season tickets. This shocks Lindsay, and Carrie pressures her to return to the company building for the promotion celebration. At the promotion party, Lindsay gives a heartfelt speech expressing her love for the job, and her words are reminiscent of what Ben said about baseball. She realizes that he is selling the prize tickets for her. Meanwhile, Ben's friends taunt him for giving up his seats and selling the tickets that his uncle Carl passed to him. As the pressure mounts on Ben not to give up the tickets, he tells the people in the seats that if he keeps the tickets, he will always be reminded that he gave up Lindsay for them. Determined to watch the game, Lindsay tries to buy tickets, but finds they are sold out. She ends up buying a ticket only for the 8th inning from a scalper. Lindsay faces difficulties trying to get to the other gate, but she manages to work her way to the center field. There, she sees Ben signing a contract with Robin's husband, Chris, to sell the tickets. Desperate to stop the sale, Lindsay calls Chris, who cancels the contract. However, Ben is still about to sign it, and in a last-ditch effort, Lindsay jumps over the wall and runs into the middle of the center field, chased by security. Ben waits for her on the other side of the wall, and she grabs hold of him, trying to prevent him from selling the tickets. As Lindsay rips up the sales contract, they share a kiss in front of the entire audience. The games continue, narrated by Al, who relays the historic comebacks in baseball that occur. Ben and Lindsay continue to watch the games together, and it is implied that a baby is on the way, bringing even more joy to their lives.